Oh, there we go. Yeah, I guess I should turn on my microphone. Might as well add that to tonight. Might as well not hear me as long as we're at it. Oh, good. Sorry, guys. You'd swear I was a rookie, but no, I've been at this for 8 years now. But I've been wrestling with technical issues. It's just that's Chucky. I appreciate that. I know it helps if you can hear me. But anyway, all comedic starts behind us, God willing. Just had some technical issues I had to wrestle with and figure out. And it's nothing paranormal. It's just the whole updating things. Updates always tend to throw a wrench in everything. So, ooh, Elaine. Woo. Elaine remembered. I'm glad you remembered, Elaine. Thank you so much. That means the world. Thank you so much. Good to see you guys, though. All you guys coming in. Great to see all these familiar faces piling in, and any new faces that happen to be checking out the show. Thank you so much. I appreciate that immensely, and hopefully you'll find you enjoy hanging out here. I've got a segment coming up tonight that we haven't had to do for a while, but it's going in and out and pausing. Maybe my internet. It must be Gypsy because everything looks all green here. Even YouTube's happy with the connection, which is really, really unusual. YouTube's always particular about it. Oh, there's less bits than should be, or there's too many, or there's like this this thing, threshold that YouTube likes, and when they don't get that, or they get too much, you get all these panic messages from the back end. But everything says excellent tonight, so I think it might be your connection. God, I hope so, because I don't know, with the start we've had, I was already late, and then having my mic muted like an absolute rookie. So what do? I've never claimed to know what I'm doing. I don't always know what I'm doing, but I'm always having fun doing it, especially since all of you are here with me. So thank you so much. We're going to do a segment tonight that I just mentioned that we haven't had to do for a while, but we're going to do it again because we got a Lulu in one of the streaming platforms. One of those comments from the cheap seats came in. Actually, there was a couple of them over there, but I just cut the one out because I wasn't sure about one of the other ones, if the guy's being snarky or just being humorous or what. I don't know. I didn't know how to take it. So, that one I'm not sure about. Yeah, I'm fine on YouTube, but for some reason Twitch is just static. Let's see what it looks like here on my back end. It looks good here, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just Twitch being twitchy. They call it Twitch for a reason. I don't have any clue why they call it Twitch. But anyway, it looks like everything's kind of going good. Here we go. I had to scroll that down so I could see the numbers, so I know how we're doing tonight. But we're going to do the news, obviously. Oddly enough, the news kind of ties in with the comments from the cheap seats, which will follow the news. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Then we'll just do whatever the hell we want. We're going to close up with the Crypted corner, of course, and see where we end up. But as always, Don couldn't be, not as always, but Don couldn't be here again tonight because like one of the last remaining weeks, I hope that he'll be absent, but I guess time will tell how life goes. But things are doing better and looking up. So again, thank you for your continued love and support and prayers for Don and those that are near and dear to him as they find their way through this. And your love and support means a lot to him and his loved ones. So keep it up. Keep sending that love and support. And we'll just keep grinding away here on the portal. So anyway, I guess that's the back end, all the loose laundry that we had to sort out here quick. But I am sorry we're late, that I'm late, and hopefully it'll be worth your wait. And so I guess I can't think of anything else that I'm forgetting to mention. Do want to mention July 26th, 27th, I'm going to be in Pocatello, Idaho for the Sasquatch Rendezvous. So if you're not in Pocatello, Idaho, I suggest you if you could be there, I suggest you get there. And I'm going to put it up on screen as soon as it comes up here so you guys can see where I'm going to be. And I'm not like an attraction here. I'm just showing up to introduce people to the shows. I'm not like headlining or anything like that. But I'm going to be there, and it would be really cool to see you guys there as well. But here is where I'm going to be. And it's right here. Let me see this button. There we go. Let's see if it worked. This is part of the technical problems I was working with, was my buttons, as per usual. But that's where I'm going to be. On July 26th and 27th, I'll be in Pocatello, Idaho. And I'll have a little table there and introducing people to the Paranormal Portal. And I'd love to have you guys come. And if you're in the neighborhood, stop in, say hello. I don't know if Pocatello is more accessible for some of you than maybe Kalispell was, but if you can make it, that'd be great. Love to see you. And as you can see, Michael Freeman will be speaking there. Nico Spatafora will be there. David Ellis and Dr. Jeff Meldrum is the keynote speaker. Mark Mearsell and Squatch America will be there. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of other vendors and things going on, so would love to see you there. Other than that, I really think the next event I'm going to be going to will be in September with Don and Sheldon. Hopefully, Sheldon will be able to make it, but that will be Phenomicon in Vernal, Utah, and love to see you there. So, but anyway, that's just putting it out there. Let you guys know that's another place I'm going to appear. If you want to come say hello to me and hang out, by God, do it. I mean, I'm not even traveling with anybody for this one. I'm not meeting familiar faces. Oh, I mean, I know Dr. Jeff and Michael, of course, but I've never met several of these other people. So I love going to conferences because it's a great opportunity to make connections and to talk to people and to find new people to bring onto the shows and stuff. That's been exciting. And I've made some incredible connections by going to these things. So, but anyway, yeah, if you have any questions, please type in all caps. Absolutely, Lucky Gypsy. That is the best way to get the attention for those of you on Twitch. Thank you for checking out the show. Thank you for those on Rumble, and thank you for those on YouTube. It's an amazing experience. Fancy Red Symbol, Elaine, and Kirsten. I don't know what that means. What does that mean, Chucky? I don't know what that means. But anyway, I guess let's get to the news and find out just what the hell is going on in the news because, well, it's the news after all. So let's see what's up on the news tonight. It's the cheap seats coming up, Barbara, after the news. I just got to showcase this. Stay tuned for the cheap seats. Oh, yeah. Okay. Gotcha, Chucky. Brown chicken, brown cow. The news. You got it, Kirsten. Good to see you, Kirsten and Isaac and Chucky and Wizard and Chris Cirque is here. Annie Manul is here. Good to see you guys on the minions outside the door in the living room playing VR. He said he'd be quiet. That's not how this is working out though. Might have to rethink my scheduling decision here. All right, welcome to the news desk, ladies and gentlemen, where we dive into all things paranormal news. And sometimes it's even paranormal. It is the Paranormal Portal news, but it's not always dealing with ghosts, Bigfoots, cryptids, UFOs and such. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just interesting. So hopefully you'll be entertained throughout the course of the news. I'm not sure how many I'm going to read. There's one I'm going to read for sure because it was like, oh, that one's going to be kind of important. But we'll start it out again throughout the course of the show. We use lots of different sites here on the Paranormal Portal, so please, if you would support those, because your traffic on all these sites equals revenue for the site owners to keep the lights on, and that is so important. These sites are amazing. They do an incredible job, so please help to support them if you would, please. The first site we're going to be visiting on the show is unexplained-mysteries.com, and this is an incredible site. We utilize it all the time. It's amazingly well done. Very current and up to date. So let's check out the first article because I just learned about this yesterday. I didn't know this was a thing, but I just found out about it. And then I found out, thank you to Marie Dumont, why that day. But what I'm talking about is World UFO Day marks the 77th anniversary of the Roswell incident. That's right. UFO Day was July 2nd. And I didn't know that. I just saw one of my friends on Facebook posted Happy UFO Day. And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that. So I posted it. And then I wasn't sure about why it was the 2nd. But then Marie told me, hey, that's the anniversary of the Roswell crash. So it's like, oh, well, winner, chicken dinner. There you go. I didn't know all that. But I do now. So and now you do too, in case you hadn't. So let's see what this article is. Around the world, UFO enthusiasts are celebrating anything and everything to do with the phenomenon. Phenomenon. Sorry. All right. Intending to raise awareness of the undoubted presence of UFOs or existence of UFOs, the World UFO Day is a special event for UFO enthusiasts and researchers, as well as for disclosure advocates who are attempting to encourage world governments to reveal what they know about UFOs. Don't hold your breath. The day also commemorates what is perhaps the most famous UFO case of them all, that of the object which crashed on a ranch near Roswell, New Mexico, and was later covered up by the military. The incident itself is likely to be familiar to anyone with an interest in the topic of UFOs. In 1947, William Brazel, a foreman working in the Foster homestead, had discovered a quantity of strange debris spread out approximately 30 miles north of Roswell, and he returned with his family to gather some of it up, but after hearing reports of flying discs, he decided to mention it to Sheriff George Wilcox. Wilcox then spoke to RAAF Major Jesse Marcel, who, alongside Captain Sheridan Cavett, came to examine the debris for themselves. After collecting some of the material, Marcel took it to Colonel William Blanchard, who in turn reported the incident to General Roger Ramey at Fort Worth. In an official announcement on July 8th, Public Information Officer Walter Hout declared that a flying disc had been found in the area, but at the time the story had been broadcast on Roswell radio station KSWS, the news had reached the Associated Press, and the word had begun to spread fast. The rest, as they say, is history. You can read our full rundown of the incident in our encyclopedia here, and I'm going to put a link to that if you want to know more. I would also encourage you to check out an interview I did with Donald Raymond Schmidt on the Paranormal Portal podcast. I think he might have been on the live shows too, as I think of it now. He could be in the archives as well. It's been years since I've talked to him, but an amazingly knowledgeable guy and really incredible. So let me copy that link and paste it into the chat. So if you guys want to check out more, that link where it says here, you might want to do that. So that is an option, of course. Brown chicken, brown cow. Absolutely. All right, paste. And there it is. The links are in the chats, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to check out more about the Roswell crash, you certainly can. And at least their coverage of it here. Again, I would encourage you to listen to the interviews with Donald Raymond Schmidt. He was one of the researchers who followed up on all of that under J. Allen Hynek. And Donald Raymond Schmidt was not a big believer in it. He thought it was all kind of funky, but he figured he'd just let the evidence lead where it did, and he's absolutely convinced there's a UFO that crashed there. It was collected, and it was covered up. And he's got a whole series of details that really help to illuminate why that is. So believe what you will, but I'm a firm believer that a disc did crash in Roswell and was recovered and was appropriated and was buried. So that's all I can say about it. But that's the first article today on the news, and a good one. That one is that one fits right into the portal here. Some of them don't always fit in, but I think they're interesting, so we'll just go with it. Next up is another one, and this one comes from the Paleontology Files. I don't know what the hell this one was. Oh, yeah. Apparently, this is what they think, anyway. I don't know how long this is. Very long. We'll just talk about the beginning of it, and then I'll put a link if anybody wants to read more from the Paleontology Files on unexplained-mysteries.com. Mysterious sudden event wiped out the last of the woolly mammoths. So what was that event? Well, I'm here to tell you that I've heard that they've recovered woolly mammoths in the permafrost and stuff that still had food in their mouths. So it doesn't sound like it was expected at all. Whatever wiped out the remaining woolly mammoths seems like it was a very, very quick event. And believe what you will, but it sounds like they were almost like flash frozen. I don't know. But let's see what this article says. I haven't read it. We're going to read it together now. It says, scientists have been investigating what brought on the ultimate demise of the last remaining mammoths. Marianne DeHask and Love Dalen, in science, I guess this is what they said. In science, we usually share our successes and ignore the less glamorous mishaps. We decided to follow a different approach, and this is the story of how multiple generations of scientists collaborated to decipher the genome of the mammoth, formerly known as Lonely Boy, often referred to as the last mammoth on Earth. The woolly mammoth was one of the most charismatic species of the last ice age. Okay, in our study, We investigated whether the Wrangell Island mammoth population was genetically destined for extinction. And despite many mistakes along the way, we ultimately discovered that it was not. Mammoths became isolated on Wrangell Island around 10,000 years ago due to rising sea levels and survived as a small population for thousands of years. Inbreeding is a common problem in small populations, and its negative effects could accumulate over time, eventually leading to an unviable population and extinction. I don't know where they're going with this. So anyway, you can learn more about the ultimate demise in terms of their studies and what they found. You be the judge. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that they're dead on with this. I just couldn't pretend to know. I'm not a very scientifically minded person, so I don't really have a dog in the race, so to speak. So, or a horse in the race, or whatever the right saying is there. Yeah, some kind of rapid death situation. Some of these animals had food in their mouths, and even a plesiosaur given live birth on the fossil record. Wow, I did not know that. Yes, plesiosaurs. Pretty surprising, because whatever it was would have had to have zapped it like right now. What would do that? Because if you're in water, like air can change temperature like boom like that, but water has to be brought to different temperature. So what would have killed it? Is it just some kind of toxic bloom of algae or something? I don't know. That's crazy. Very interesting. Whatever it is, I don't know. Just a thought. But anyway, a couple links for you guys to peruse in your time after the show, hopefully. Don't peruse it during the show. I mean, unless you're really into mammoths, then I guess you have an excused absence. But here we go. Here's an interesting story from the occult files, oddly enough. And let's check out this one from unexplained-mysteries.com. I don't see much from their occult files very often, so let's see what this says. It has to do with the Titanic exhibit. Here you go. From unexplained-mysteries.com, ladies and gentlemen. Titanic exhibit mysteriously floods in alleged haunted museum. There's a Titanic car. What the hell is a Titanic car? Not much you can see there, but the picture's labeled. Maybe they were shipping cars and all kinds of stuff over on that boat. But a Titanic exhibit at a museum near Chicago has inexplicably flooded, and nobody can figure out how. That's kind of creepy, because it's like, huh? It's a Titanic exhibit, and it flooded. That's kind of a creepy coincidence, right? Anyway, the Volo Museum, which already has a reputation of being haunted, made local news headlines recently when a CCTV footage was released showing a significant amount of water suddenly flood its Titanic exhibit late in the evening when nobody else was around. Particularly strange was the fact that museum officials were unable to find any explanation for the flooding, despite their best efforts to locate the source of the water. There's no burst pipes, no roof leaks, or anything else that account for it. I'm not a huge ghost guy, but when all this happens, I mean, we're looking, but there's no cracks, there's no holes. The museum's director, Jim, Woditila? I don't know how to say Jim's name here. Sorry, Jim. Told News Today. Look at that smile. Ooh. There are no broken pipes. The ceiling is fine. Everything around the building is totally fine. The museum is certainly no stranger to unusual occurrences, having been home to numerous accounts of paranormal phenomena, sightings of shadowy figures, and other weirdness. So, could the water be paranormal in nature, or is there a more conventional explanation? You can check out the CCTV footage yourself below. Well, I think we will. This is from the Volo Museum itself. So let's check it out, folks. And looks like it's good on the screen. Here we go. I don't want to get a copyright strike for the music. There's a Titanic car. Okay. Are we going to see the water come in? How's this going to work? There's the Titanic car again in the background. Let's see what's going on. Oh, there's the water. It's it seems like it's like seeping up from underneath, doesn't it? I mean, I might be wrong, but maybe not the way it's spread if it was seeping up from underneath. That's pretty crazy. Look at that. Wait a second. Look at that chandelier. Why is it wiggling? Do you see that? I mean, the chandelier seems pretty stationary. There's obviously a little moving air, probably ventilation, because you can see those crystals turning and flashing once in a while. But watch the chandelier in the foreground on the left. It kind of just starts shaking, which is weird. Would almost seem like a seismic event or something. Not now. It kind of has a sway to it, but that could just be the airflow. Where is it? Okay, watch that chandelier now. There, look at that. Look at that. That's a wiggle. What the hell is that? I mean, it could be like it's Chicago, so it could be an L train goes nearby and shakes or whatever, but that's pretty wild, right? I don't know. I don't know anything about the Volo Museum in Chicago or what's going on around there, but that chandelier does start shaking along with that seeping water. It doesn't look like anything was really damaged, but it's a little more than strange that it just kind of happened, I guess. Well, there it is. I don't know. You be the judge, but that's a little creepy, right? And it's water of all things. Oof. That car's going, no, God, not again. But I guess it just sounds like it's more of a soppy floor kind of thing. I mean, it didn't actually flood the place, but they got some water in the place somehow. So very weird that they couldn't find out why. That place is actually out in the country, away from downtown. Oh, interesting, SoCal. Okay. Well, then it wouldn't be an L train. I don't know. Maybe it's a train. I don't know where it is, but there could be tracks nearby or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there, but that is pretty crazy. Must be a hell of a museum to have a Titanic car there. Very strange. Whatever the case is, very cool. But you saw it here. Make of it what you will, folks. Make of it what you will. I want to make sure we get to the... Oh, here it is. Here's the story that I want to make sure to get to tonight. Now, here's the thing, guys. I'll be absolutely frank and open and honest with you, and have been before. I don't really think there's anything to the flat earth theory personally. That doesn't mean that I cast aspersions at people that do. I mean, I've not been up there. I've not seen for myself, and I'm just going by, what I've researched about it, and especially dealing with constellations in the sky from different vantage points and stuff. And it does seem to definitely reinforce to me the idea that the earth is round. I know some of you out there believe it's flat, and that's fine. I don't think it's something to mock anybody about, but I'm not really on board with it. Now, to each his own. I figure it doesn't really matter what shape the earth is, because at the end of the day, people got to treat each other nice. We got to worry about ourselves and our development and taking care of a lot of other problems on the earth that require a lot more of our urgent attention rather than what shape the globe is, or if it's a globe at all. But, again, believe what you want. It's your call. Now, just a little sneak peek, the comment from the cheap seed was obviously somebody dealing with a flat earth philosophy. And he was kind of snarky about it. So I was snarky back. And I don't mean to cause any offense to anybody that is a believer in it, but, understands, hey, we have different viewpoints. But, again, we'll get into it soon. All right, but here's the latest story from unexplained-mysteries.com. There's a new show coming up that tasks conspiracy theorists with proving that the earth is flat. So I'll tell you what, even if I was a believer in the flat earth, there's no way in hell I would go on a show and say, the earth's flat, trust me. here's why, here's my, my ideas. And I just think that it's probably going to be a feeding frenzy for anybody that decides to jump into that. More power to them if they're that convinced and convicted to, talk about that. But, I think that's an invitation to be brutalized personally. But anyway, a novel new reality show will require flat earth believers to convince a panel of experts that they are correct. Those who believe that the earth is flat despite overwhelming and incontrovertible evidence to the contrary will soon be given a chance to put forward their case to a panel of experts, thanks to a new reality show coming later this year to new streaming service, The Network. I've not heard of this new streaming service, but good luck to them. Entitled Flat Earthers, the show, which is described as part docuseries and part competition, will give 4 families $50,000 of resources that they can use in an attempt to prove that the earth is flat. If they can convince the majority of the panel of scientists, theologians, and cartographers that their beliefs are correct, they'll win an undisclosed cash prize. Given how unlikely it is that anyone will actually win, however, the amount will probably be irrelevant anyway. From the press release, it seems that the show is more about highlighting the increasing number of Americans who believe that the earth is flat than it is about taking the idea itself too seriously. As we continue to deliver audiences free premium content, we're excited to announce this daring and genre-breaking docuseries, said network creator Aram Rappaport. The flat earth phenomena continues to grow on a global level. Flat earthers will provide a fascinating view into the psyche of the human condition and what drives belief systems worldwide. All 10 episodes of the show will launch in December. Well, there you go. Again, I don't know. That's the other part of it is like, it's almost akin to, and I'm not getting political here, but I don't think anybody, unless you've been living under a rock, has missed the point that there's a huge divide between like Republicans and Democrats right now, a huge divide. And, maybe warranted, depending on how you view this, but maybe it's just that people need to respect that other people have different opinions, whatever, take it for what it is. But something like this is kind of like a panel of Republicans being confronted by a bunch of Democrats who are trying to win a prize to endorse Democrats, the Democrat Party. And that's just never going to happen. Well, this panel of experts, I'm sure, is not going to be swayed no matter what these people bring to the table, because anybody that's got a fixed paradigm and they're very, very much involved in their worldview, it's not going to matter what people bring to the table. So I don't know how you're going to get that cash prize. It's almost a no-win situation. It's just, and that's just an example. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there's some great things they could bring to the table. It'd be like, that doesn't really make sense. I'll consider that, but to each his own. Anyway, interesting, and believe what you will. All right, here we go. That was that article. I don't know. It is kind of interesting. I'd not heard of this new The Network, or where that's going to be available from. Is it another sign-up streaming platform kind of thing? And if it is, that's going to be a tough sell. So I hope they've. I think most people are subscribed out. Like they're just. Not everybody can just keep subscribing to new ideas. So I hope that's not the model they're using for it. But at any rate, there it is. New show coming out called The Flat Earthers, or Flat Earthers. So however you feel about that, it's up to you. I don't know if we're going to read this one. No, I guess I am done with the news now. Okay. That was it for the news, which is going to bring us to our next segment, folks. So buckle up. It's about to get good. I hope. Maybe you guys will think I was a dick. I don't know. But I just, Anyway, let's get to it. you, Don. That's for you, Don, out there listening somewhere, I'm sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again. Buckle up, because we're going in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again. I had to go all the way over to BitChute to get this one, but I got notified by email. I was like, what? Well, here it is. Here it is, folks, on my BitChute. Recently on I think it was last Saturday's show, we read a news article about how the space station contract was awarded to Elon Musk in order to his SpaceX team to basically decommission it, to bring it in. And it sounds like they're just gonna pull it into Earth orbit and or a lower orbit anyway, or I don't know if they're gonna trash it or just have it float in a lower orbit for a while, or what the plan is. But I got a comment, and this is what the comment was. Kind of hard to read. Sorry, I'll try to blow it up a little more if I can here. There it is. This person, Maverick. What is it? Maverick 331. I stop watching when the guy brings up the space station as a real object floating in outer space rather than the NASA fraud that it is. It's like, wow. Well, thank you for sharing why you quit watching. Why do people feel it's so important to just put that out there? Like, this is how big an idiot I am. Well, anyway, I had to respond, and I don't know. Here it is. I'll let you read it for yourself rather than me try to read it. But I just wished him the rest a lot of luck in the rest of the 4th century, and to hang in there because it gets better. Sorry. I don't know. I just figure, again, folks, the impetus behind this is that. The impetus behind this is that, look, if I don't mind criticism. I really don't. I don't think it's, really that big of a deal. But if someone's going to go all the way out of their way to be a dick about it, like, well, I quit watching because of this. Another guy, his comment was something about, I thought he was going to go into flat moon theory or something. And I wasn't sure what to do with that. If that guy's just being hilarious, or if he was maybe being sincere. I don't know. It's hard to draw a lot of reason out of this. How would he know it's a fraud? The real one is in this closet. Yeah, maybe. But I just figure, if somebody's going to go all the way out of their way to be a dick, well, then I'm gonna do what I can to let them have their time in the spotlight for it. So there you go, folks. Another fantastic rendezvous with the comments from the cheap seats. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some laughs out of it and had a good time with it. I know I did. So, anyway, this has been Comments from the Cheap Seats. I love that music. That music just cracked me up because it's just so weak. It's like, oh my God, like Nintendo days, the 8-bit song. There we go. Steph the contractor says, when our units were taking long-range shots, we all had to adjust for the Coriolis effect. Otherwise, you could miss big. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Steph, but that sounds amazing, whatever you're talking about. And it's way out of my pay grade, obviously. But I'm not sure where the reference was for that. But anyway, very cool. I'm not sure what you were aiming at and what that was. Coriolis effect. Huh. Oh, when our units were taking long-range shots. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. All right, with that comment, the space station isn't the only floater. I'm just saying. Hi, Dog Digger. Good to see you. Came over into the Rumble. Nice pun, Brent. Ah, thanks, Lane. You know, honest to God, I have to be totally transparent about this. I'm really more surprised than any of you at some of the puns that come out of my mouth inadvertently. I don't know if I'm channeling puns from some kind of pun genius out there, or how that works. But I swear to God, I really never intend on saying pun things, but they come out. And it sounds like I'm clever, but honest to God, I'm not. So, I don't know where that comes from. But anyway, there you have it. Wonderful, wonderful. Hey, Renee, good to see you. Where are we going to go now? I know what we can do now. There's another article that we're going to get to. What time is it? I guess I should check that first. God, it's already 7:47. We could get to the cryptids, I suppose. Decisions, folks, as we look at the potential of diving into the cryptid corner. I think we're going to do that because last couple shows, I think I kind of cut it shorter than I intended on. And I got a ton of articles to go through. So why don't we do that? Why don't we just head into the cryptid corner, unless anybody else has anything they want to address first. By all means, let me know in the chat. If you could, with capital letters as much as possible. Round, just like the other stars and planets. Amen, Barbara. That's what I think too. But, under more Orwell theories, normalized insanity. Justin. Amen. Well, thank you, Barbara. Spot on response. I don't know. I mean, I didn't mean to be too mean, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. How long are we going to waste time going through that kind of stuff when, the people are starving and there's so much more important things that we could focus our energy on rather than the shape of the planet. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but, I think some people are just indignant about it. Like, they've been lying to us. Well, maybe not. Maybe they've been telling the truth, but it just doesn't fit in with somebody's worldview, and that's okay. I mean, we all have our own different paradigms, but anyway, got to watch out for those itis brothers. I don't know what that means, Elaine. What do you call a twitching cow? Beef jerky. Well done, Aussie. Well done. I like that one. Hey, David Barnes. Good to see you, brother. Careful or Brent will be back to... No, I won't. No, I won't. No, I will not. I'm not intentionally going into that. It's just people bring them up. And then I have to address it because it just doesn't make sense, okay? It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's their fault. They're grabbing those things for some reason. I have no idea why. Anyway, show me them squatch. All right, SoCal. I think we're going to head into the cryptid corner and dive into it. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the journey. But here we go. Sorry, that was my own. I was howling there too. I just get sucked in. Is my beard growing? No, I'm good. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's get to the cryptids here. We're going to start the journey tonight, of course, with Sasquatch Chronicles, because by God, we have Wes's blessing to do that. And I'm going to do that. So, as always, please check out Sasquatch Chronicles whenever you can. The blog page, the home page, because I know most of you guys are listeners of Wes's show, and it's incredible, and there's no question. But there's also a whole host of more information that Wes posts all the time, and it's not all his shows, but he posts other shows, including ours, which is really cool. I'm personally favorite. Those are my personal favorite posts, of course, but it's a great opportunity to see, and it's things that we feature on every show that I can. The listener emails I'm really particularly interested in because these are people's experiences, and not all of them become shows. So, but it's still whatever people have experienced is a huge event. They're experiencing some kind of weirdness and strangeness that I think needs to be explored. So, and Wes does that justice by posting it out there so that people can check those out. But I think maybe more of you need to do that if you're not already, but I cover as many of them as I can here on the show. But if you went back in the archives, there'd be tons and tons more. I'm not sure how far back his archives goes, but I'll bet you it's years. And I know we haven't been doing the Cryptid Corner that long, so I'm sure you can find tons of amazing stories that people have shared on there as well. Notwithstanding news stories that Wes posts and other shows, not only ours. So they all have great shows. By the way, on Friday, just so you know, in case you didn't catch it, I did appear on From the Shadows podcast with my friend Shane Grove, and that's going to air on Friday, which hopefully you guys check it out. Shane's a wonderful guy. I've known him for years, and we've been friends for a long time. We've appeared on each other's shows, and so definitely check it out. So, but again, that's From the Shadows podcast. So check it out if you want to hear me being interviewed. Yeah, I will say this: those of you that are regular listeners, you probably have heard me say a lot of the things that I said on his show 100 times. But it was a great discussion. We had a good time, and I threw out some of my pet theories on things, and it was interesting. So I hope you guys will check it out and support what Shane's doing on From the Shadows. He and his team are a bunch of marvelous people, and they could use your love as well. So give them a supporting listen whenever you can. Put them on your podcast preferred list or subscribe or whatever. And don't forget our podcast. Just saying. All right, here we go. What am I doing? I'm in the blog page. I want to be on this page because the first email that Wes posted is coming from July 2nd, which was yesterday, UFO Day. And this one, it wasn't shaped like a bear. I'm here to tell you, a lot of times in Bigfoot stuff, and those of you that have been around the subject for any length of time, I'm sure are very, very familiar with some of the skeptics' response. Well, it's just a misidentified bear. Now, a lot of the people that have sightings are really familiar with the woods. They've been in the woods. Many of them have hunted bear. They have at least witnessed bear on many occasions, and they had no problem identifying it. It wasn't, bears have a very distinct silhouette. If they're looking at you, they got ears on top of their head. They'd have no shoulders. It almost goes from neck to like belly in this, gradual slope. They have no shoulders. They have these hair, and if they're sideways, they got a snout. It's pretty easy to identify a bear silhouette. I think everybody's familiar with it, and you see it, and it's just like, that's a bear. It's just instant recognition. But it's one of the big fallbacks for the skeptical community. Well, you just misidentified a bear. Well, it's not that easy to misidentify a bear, or to look at a Sasquatch and think, well, that's probably a bear I'm seeing. I think that's as hard a thing as well. The famous Claire episode. I knew what bears look like, and this was no bear. Of course, it's very easy to identify a bear. But when you see something that is huge, has no neck, no pointy ears, no snout, and huge shoulders, long arms, and very comfortably and quickly walking on 2 feet and running on 2 feet, it's not that hard to figure out this is no bear. So let's check it out. A listener writes, when I was about 13 years old, we lived in an old farmhouse at the end of a dirt road. It was surrounded by fields that were used for crops before we moved there, at the time mostly for hay. There was also a gas pipeline that went along the back of the fields, and there was fun for me because there was a barely used access road on it, and it was perfect path for me to ride my bike and to play on. We had a couple of Australian shepherds, and the neighbors had a chow that ran loose all the time. The whole time that we lived there, about 5 years, they would randomly go crazy and take off across the fields and out of the woods. A short time later, they would come back and would act funny, kind of geeked out. We never figured out what it was that caused them to be that way. I can remember my dad and I standing out in the backyard at night and would listen to them as they went out. I don't know what he was thinking, and he didn't share his thoughts, but I assume he always worried about somebody coming up to the house to rob us. We owned a convenience store in town, and we always had a decent amount of cash in the house. And as a kid, I didn't think too much about it and wasn't really worried about anything in the woods because I was out there all the time. Well, one evening, just before dusk, I decided to go out and walk the pipeline. They just bushwhacked it, so all the tall grass was lying over, which caused me to take high steps as I walked. Entrance to the wood on either side of the pipeline was protected by dense undergrowth that was a result of regular bushwhacking. And as a result, I couldn't really see anything past the undergrowth. It was just about to be dark, and I needed to head back. Just before I turned around to go back home, I thought I heard a steps just on the other side of the undergrowth, so I stopped immediately. Nothing. Well, I started walking again, and maybe 5 steps, and I heard the steps again and stopped. Well, that's when I heard the most god-awful sound that I have ever heard. I've tried to explain it to people, and I can't really figure out a way to. It sounded like a baby that morphed into a woman that was demonic and sounded like she was being stabbed. It was right beside me on the other side of the undergrowth, and it terrified me, and I took off. I ran the 1/4 mile or so at full sprint back to the house and told my parents. Well, they laughed it off and said I just spooked myself. And looking back on this reaction, I guess they just didn't know what to say because I wasn't the type of kid to scare easily. I've been told that bobcats can make a crazy sound when they're in heat. Recordings that I have heard of this do not match what I heard that night. I chalked it up to that just because it was the only rational explanation I could come up with. Another experience of interest in the same area probably happened about a year later. I was out again in the woods behind my junior high school. There was an old bicycle trails out there that I rode on a lot, so I was familiar with the area. A classmate of mine said that he heard there was a homeless man that lived in those woods, and I'd been out there a ton and had never seen any evidence of anyone other than the old bike trails, so I was looking for some evidence. I walked down to the creek, and as I approached, I saw a structure. It was shaped kind of like an igloo, domed with an entrance on the side. Larger branches made the structure, and smaller branches covered with dead leaves filled in the gaps. I don't remember seeing any cut ends on any of the branches or logs, so my assumption is it was made with dead fall trees. It was about 8 foot in diameter and about 4 to 5 feet tall. I checked it out, but I didn't crawl inside for fear that if there was a homeless nearby that he might take offense. Well, as I walked along the creek side, I noticed a box turtle on the small sandy bank, and I continued to walk, and I guess it was about 20 yards up the trail, and I heard brush moving, something was on the move, and a huge sound, like something hit the water in the creek, like a large stone had been thrown in. Well, I ran back to where I saw the turtle and noticed it was gone. As I'm looking for it, I noticed there was a heel print in the sandy bank. It was going into the water, only the heel part was visible. My assumption at the time was that the supposed homeless guy took off after I left his area and tried to move to a different spot. As he tried to jump the creek, he stepped into the creek, which would explain the water sound. I guess, okay, so here's the homeless area. There's where he heard the scream. So, yeah, I mean, there is woods around there. It's a lot of strips of woods, but yeah. The picture shows the area I have mentioned above. If you look up the coordinates on Google Earth, you will see that there's been a lot of clear cutting over the last few years, and all of that area was wooded when I lived there. I've also drawn out my stomping grounds around the house as far as playing in the woods was concerned. That area was about a mile wide and half a mile deep, and The few things that I've mentioned above, when examined as individual events, don't seem that important, but if you look at them as a whole, it's a little more interesting. And if you look around and follow the wooded areas, they connect for miles. My question is, do you think they, Sasquatch, could live this close to small towns as long as they have wooded areas to travel in? Have you ever heard of a rash of sightings in populated areas? Deer do it all the time around here. The second unexplained experience that happened in 1999, my cousin and I were on our way back from my brother's graduation from App State. What is App State? Appalachia State? I don't know. I'm just guessing. They were driving down Highway 321 from Boone to Lincolnton around 2 a.m. and saw something large in the median. The highway used to be divided with a large grass median in some areas, and I think it has been changed since then. It was brown and large, maybe 5 feet tall. And we just caught a glimpse of it as we passed, and it was odd because what I could see is it wasn't shaped like a bear. And bears here in North Carolina are black bears. And I asked my cousin if she saw that, and she said yes with a terrified look in her eyes. And I said, "Do you want to turn around?" She begged me not to, and we just left it at that. If this wasn't a bear, what was it? Do they eat carrion? Maybe it was eating roadkill. The third thing that happened just over a year and a half ago, February 2013, I thought nothing about this until I started listening a few weeks ago. I wonder if you meant 2023. 4 of us wanted to go out for a quick little one-night camping backpacking trip. We went up to South Mountain State Park, and we're lucky because this is just over an hour away, and it's easy. Boy Scouts use the first couple of sites a lot because they aren't far from the parking area. We decided we didn't want to deal with all that and reserved a spot in the campground the furthest away from the parking lot. I think we walked about 5 miles in, and being that it was February and cold, we had the whole place to ourselves. We only saw one person on the trails as we hiked in, and we were set up in camp around noon and spent the rest of the day gathering wood and talking trash to each other. As it began to get dark, we decided to eat. Mainly because we were freezing and night was coming fast, and after we ate, we sat there around the fire and just trash talk and continued. And we began to hear noises off in the distance, hoots and hollers. They weren't real close to us, but I guess they were over a ridge or two. We would hear them and then nothing for a few minutes, and then again. This went on for about a half hour. We heard the sounds all the time, but we really didn't think much about it. You hear stuff in the woods, and I think we all figured it was just another camper somewhere out there. This really didn't make much sense since we only passed one person that day, and that time of the year isn't for the faint of heart. My buddy kept saying he could see something off in the distance, but we'd shine our lights over there and see nothing, so we gave him some guff about it and laughed. And we all went to bed, and it started to lightly snow. Nothing else happened, like I said earlier. I didn't think too much about it until I started listening. I did a search for Bigfoot sightings in North Carolina and found out that there have been sightings in both Burke County and the adjacent Cleveland counties, so much so that they have a nickname for the Sasquatch, Nobby. Do you guys have any info on North Carolina sightings, or have you ever researched anything here? The pic below shows where we camped during the experience described above. There's the place. Okay. Yeah, there's plenty of forest there. I've heard a couple people say boogers on your show, and that's a common term around here. And I've heard my dad and many other people in my family say, "Don't let the woolly boogers get you," or "Watch out for the boogers." I never thought to ask what the hell a booger was. Also, it's interesting to me, and that I hope this message didn't take up too much of your time. And if you read it, I hope you found it interesting. Sorry for any grammatical errors. It's late, and I'm too tired to proofread. That's pretty cool. Again, they're mostly benign. All of these are being in the proximity of something, potentially a Sasquatch, but nothing absolutely solid convincing, but it sure could be. The behaviors seem pretty consistent with, any number of other sightings. So that's pretty cool. That's the first story from Sasquatch Chronicles. Very cool. I'm really glad Wes posted this. All right, let's go to the next one. This one's also from July 2nd. The activity seemed to be focused on my wife. Now, that is not uncommon at all. I think especially for the male Sasquatch. They tend to find females pretty interesting. And I don't know if that's good at all, actually. But, I mean, they don't normally abduct people that I know of. But I've heard several horror stories through the years regarding that. And it's freaky stuff. But I can't imagine a more profound nightmare experience than that. But anyway, let's see what this one is. July 2nd, the activity seemed to be focused on my wife. A listener writes, I had an encounter about 6 years back with a friend of mine, not far from my home in Grafton, New Hampshire. My friend and I had taken our daughters on a Jeep excursion up to an old Class 6 logging road, leading toward a defunct 19th century village called Fowlertown. That'd be pretty interesting to check out. We stopped the Jeep about halfway up at what is called the bog. The bog is a small wet pond that people have been known to have their rigs pulled out of during the wet season. This was early fall, early afternoon, beautiful day. My friend and I got out of the Jeep and we were talking, looking back. There was no birds, no bugs, absolute silence. Well, if it's fall, it might, bugs don't last long and when it gets to be frost. Then the roar. There was a bellow, a sound that growl started low, lasted a crazy long time, and ended in a high shrieking scream. It moved in my chest and body. I was excited and terrified, and I told my buddy we had heard a Bigfoot. He said it was just a bear, but he was scared real bad. He got in the Jeep quickly, hauled me and my daughter back to my house while trying to act like it didn't happen. He pulled away real fast, and that was the end of us being friends, more or less. Wow, that was it. That guy was all done. He's like, nope, this friendship's over. I don't want to ever talk about this again. That's terrifying. So that day, I became a believer. I grew up here, just outside of Mount Cardigan National Forest. And I know the animals around here and what they sound like. And that wasn't anything normal. It was huge and angry. Although I looked across the 70 yards of the bog, I couldn't see anything in the tree line that day. But I could feel it watching us. Fast forward some years, and I started my janitor gig this past fall, 10 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. Wow. My dog Teddy died 2 years back, I think Valentine's Day, I recall. He always chased the bears off and away from the land around our trailer. We have a creek out back and a swamp that is separated by a well-worn game trail. Ethan then moved in 12 years ago. There were stick teepees. Ethan. I don't even know what this. We moved, or maybe it was when. When we moved in 12 years ago, there were stick teepees and stones placed in trees and all sorts of weird stuff that we didn't really know what meant anything. After Ted died, I'd been worried about the bears around the property, but come to think of it, I've not seen a bear since he died. I have 2 small kids and I don't drop my guard when they play outside. My wife says she hears large animals in the tree line, while the kids are often in the pool or riding backs. Riding backs? I don't know what that means. Maybe it's bikes. Maybe it was supposed to be bikes, riding bikes. This last fall, when I started at Dartmouth, I would come home to find trees dropped around the property. My remaining old female dog will not go outside by herself, and she sniffs the doorway every night and sleeps with the kids. My wife told me when I got home one morning in early spring that a bear had been outside her window that night, growling and huffing. Odd. Bears are hibernating. Then, a few weeks later, she said a deer or moose was outside the window breathing heavy and scraping its antler against the side of the trailer. Even with crusty snow, not a single track in the morning. Ooh. Since I've started listening to your show, my eyes are blown wide open. I had not realized that I was dealing with Sasquatches, even though I knew they were real after my experience a few years back. Something slapped the side of the shed real loud last week, immediately after I left the driveway and headed to work at night. My wife has strange fake dog noises calling to her from the tree line, and I have weird recordings of odd owl sounds coming from the creatures that call back and forth to each other at night around my house. One night I heard the owls become coyotes, or at least one side of the calling became coyote noises. I thought, weird. Why would this weird owl thing go near coyotes? And then I heard a painful yipping and violent squealing sound and a yak, yak, yak noise with snapping teeth. And then it was back to just the owl noises. Most of this activity seemed to be focused around my wife. The real weird directed stuff doesn't happen until I am gone at work. After listening to your show, my eyes have opened that a lot of this stuff has happened to other people, a lot of validation. I contacted the BFRO for help. There's a history in my family of encounters, and I realized my grandfather had one at his house in the same town when I was in my early 20s, and my dad says he heard wood knocks up at my grandpa's farm. A lot of things have come to light. Yeah, there's some First Nation tribes that call Sasquatch the ventriloquists or the mimickers. That they are known to imitate owls. That's really common. But people say it sounds like about an 800-pound owl. Hoo, hoo. It's not like a like a whoo. It's like hoo, hoo. So I don't know. I guess that's pretty weird. Hey, Grandizer, good to see you. It's strange. Now, the coyotes, I believe they may, take out entire clans of coyotes. I mean, they just don't want to compete. And so they take them out. I don't know if they harvest anything from coyotes or if they just kill them outright. I'm not sure what goes on there, but it's pretty weird. I mean, they're known, they're believed, I should say. I can't say they're known, but they're believed to eat dogs. Like they'll take dogs if they're really hungry, and that's pretty low-hanging fruit for them. But, it's pretty tragic, though. God, these pets are part of families, and, to think that that's what happened to your animal, that's horrifying. But I don't know. Again, the other part of the attraction to females can have to do, and, frankly, with menstruation. That it's most of the interactions where they're harassing people, especially females, does tend to coincide with menstruation. So that is strange. And I imagine there's got to be a big pheromone issue there at play that they're just triggering off of. I don't think it's calculated. I just think that that they just get worked up by the pheromone changes or whatever. So that's just a theory, but I think it stands to reason. I think that animals, all animals, are much more sensitive. What if bears aren't really bears, but dogmen and Sasquatch in disguise? I don't know what to say to that, Eric. That's a I guess it's a theory. They certainly could mimic all of the above. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. It's a possibility, I suppose, that they could mimic bears. They mimic owls. They mimic coyotes. They mimic a lot of different sounds. And again, they mimic people. These people were hearing weird dog barks coming from the forest at night. So I don't know. Maybe they're trying to. I've heard of people hearing their dogs called by name from out in the forest that they believe was a Sasquatch, and it stands to reason that they hear this happening, and then the dog goes running to the people. Well, they can put that together, that's the sound you make, and the dog might come running. Well, if they're hungry, might be a quick way to get your dog out in the woods and, in dire straits, I guess. I don't know how else to say it, but pretty crazy stuff in any case. Two great stories from Sasquatch Chronicles, though. Special thanks to Wes. I appreciate you letting us use those, and it's pretty amazing. They know the schedule of everyone in the house. Inadvertent gifting going on. I gotta do this again. Sorry, I gotta turn this off though, because we don't need that again. We don't need it again. But I was just looking at some of the comments. Mario P says they often know the schedule of everyone in the house. Any advertent gifting going on? That's a great question, because why are they being drawn in? Are you missing lots of dog food? Like, hey, how do we keep running out of dog food? That could be inadvertent gifting. Candace says, I'm in New Hampshire a lot because my boyfriend lives in Manchester. So when he leaves for work in the AM, I'll look on the Bigfoot biomap and look for encounters that are sightings in New Hampshire. I was going to Pawtuckaway State Park because one day my boyfriend and I went there and got out of the car, and we're all walking and heading towards the hiking trails, and the small pond was to our right within the big dirt parking lot where the dumpsters are, and there was a massive train off directly ahead of us. I heard it. My boyfriend was too busy staring at his phone, and the people that were in the front of us that were metal detecting didn't even respond, so I assumed they didn't know what it was. I don't know what the train in the distance means. Is that an actual train, or does it sound like something big going through the brush? Is that what she means? But that alerted me to their presence. I knew they were alerting others to perhaps the humans for whatever reason they do that. There's a big bunch of comment there, and a couple other ones. But yeah, very cool. Very cool experiences. At any rate, but you be the judge. All right, so we're going to move over to Phantoms and Monsters. This is one that I've been holding on to for a couple weeks now, but it does deal. I am putting together an episode for the podcast very casually when I have time to work on it, of the Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands, giants are very much a part of their culture, and they are apparently witnesses to this day that have seen them, and there's apparently a tribal chief of the giants that is working in cooperation with government of the Solomon Islands, and you be the judge, but it could be. This is a story that comes out of the Solomon Islands from Phantoms and Monsters. Again, this is Lon Strickler's site, Phantoms and Monsters. And Lon is a good friend of the show. He's been on the show several times. Wonderful guy. Great to have on and talk to, and get his take on a lot of this weirdness and strangeness, because he's been a part of this community for decades. And there's so much to find over on phantomsandmonsters.com. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. You can find information on all of Lon's published works and his own podcast, which is Phantoms and Monsters Radio. So formerly Arcane Radio, and I think he had a couple other name iterations, but it's a great show, and Lon does a hell of a job. So definitely look for him on YouTube. That was the Rhythmics Sweet Dreams Are Made of These. I don't know. That was the first song that came to my head. So I'm saying that's what I was doing. All right. Solomon Islands giant kidnaps village girl. Spiritual elder secures her release. And again, this is a big part of the culture on the Solomon Islands. So could there still be giants there? Well, if you believe there's giants anywhere, it sounds like these people have plenty of reason to believe that they're still there. And, sightings do come in, even here on the mainland of the United States. people seeing these gigantic creatures. The Crinkle Drink. You got it, Nathan Nate. I busted out a solo just for all of you guys. That's just because I love you. All right. Let's see what the story is all about. A Solomon Islands man recalls a story told to him by a spiritual elder that pertained to the kidnapping of a village girl by a giant and how he was able to secure her release. A colleague forwarded the following information. I come from this really remote country called the Solomon Islands. I lived there as a child, but have since moved to Australia. Australia. Wonder who this guy is. I wonder if it's the same guy. Somebody I'm researching that's written a bunch of stories about the giants of Solomon Island. Anyway, for generations, giants have been at the center of many stories, from the giants that disrupted villages to the ones that would kill people at night to eat them. 5 years ago, when I went back, I was talking to our spiritual elder. They believe our ancestors gave him gifts that connects to the supernatural side. And he told me a more recent story. So apparently, a family from another village had contacted him about their daughter missing to see if it was something supernatural. Now, our spiritual man investigated. He didn't tell me how, and came to the conclusion that a giant had taken her. And he asked the village if they had a giant population, and they verified that they lived in a cave not too far away. So he goes to investigate the nearby cave, and from the outside, it looked like a completely normal cave. And he said, and when you went inside, nothing looked unusual. But before giving up on the lead, he decided to try a blood sacrifice, killing a living thing to use its life force, a very common practice in our customs, to see if it would trigger something. Well, he rounded up 3 pigs and slaughtered them at the front of the cave, pouring their blood out. And he said he waited a bit and then decided to go in. Sure enough, when he went inside, the cave had changed completely, and there were stairs leading down. My guy went down the stairs deeper into the cave, and he said the plants he saw in the cave were unlike anything he had seen before. He mentioned them glowing in the dark, and it was one of the most beautiful things he had ever seen. He eventually went further and further down, and sure enough, there was a giant on a throne. Throne is misspelled, but anyway. The giant thanked him for the sacrifice and asked him what he wanted. He mentioned the girl, and the giant knew what he was talking about. He demanded the girl come out, and she appeared. The giant explained that one of his family members had taken a liking to her because she was so beautiful and kidnapped her. So my spiritual guy asks for her back, and the giant agrees and lets him take her back. She's returned to her village, and that's all for the story. When I was listening to this story, I thought it was wild, but I also know that giants are so prevalent in our stories, or prevalent rather, that maybe there is some truth to what is being said. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but I thought it was an interesting story to share. And there's no follow-up there, so that's it. It does sound kind of surreal, but again, if you're dealing with, multi-levels of reality, perhaps something like a blood sacrifice could do something like that. I don't know. I mean, again, I have to default to how, but what do I know? I don't know much about this kind of stuff, so I find it very interesting, though. So believe what you will, but I think it's very interesting. And again, the giant stories are very prevalent in the Solomon Islands and continue to be a part of their culture. So believe it or not, that's what it is. Now this one is, let me go to another one here. I want to get to this one first because we're in the cryptid corner, and by God, we should discuss some cryptids. Here's one from phantomsandmonsters.com that deals with potentially a dogman or some variation. And let's get to that. Here we go from phantomsandmonsters.com. Werewolf observed in Strathcona County, Alberta. It was a wolf the size of a bear that walked like a man. Oof. Look at that. I mean, I don't know if this is an accurate rendition of it, but that looks like A wolf the size of a bear walking like a man. That's creepy. Very creepy. In Strathcona County, Alberta, a Canada resident encounters a creature that he stated to me was a wolf the size of a bear that walked like a man. He's convinced it was a werewolf. A werewolf. You don't hear that term very much anymore. I received the following account. Hello, sir. I live on an acreage, and to get home, I always have to drive down the main road, past farms, subdivisions, and other acreages. In August of 2014, I was driving home from work at midnight. In one of the ditches, when I was maybe 500 meters away, my high beams illuminated a wolf's head and eyes. It was moving slightly as though it were eating something or sniffing or something, but my lights didn't show me what. We have no coyotes out here where we live, and everyone has dogs, but the coyotes are too cowardly to be that close to the road, and few people let their dogs roam loose at night. Most importantly, it was just too big for a coyote or a dog. It was even too big for a wolf. It looked like the size of a small bear. Well, as I got closer, it stood up to about the height of a man, maybe a little taller, and moved towards me. And at this point, I passed it at 100 kilometers and didn't look back, too scared to try and think about what it really was. The sighting was only about 3 kilometers from my house, so I ran inside the moment I pulled into the driveway, and I'm fully convinced I saw a werewolf. The location was in the middle of Alberta in Strathcona County, which is east of Edmonton. And Lon's note, the witness asked me not to give up the precise location. There have been quite a few similar incidents reported in Alberta recently, even though this account is a decade old. Oh, interesting. So I didn't get that. I guess 2014. Yeah, that's a decade old. Interesting story, though. So, yeah, we just don't hear werewolf as a descriptor anymore. We always hear dogman. And, you know, I mean, honestly, if you look at the werewolf lore, it would have to be a shapeshifter, right? Because werewolves are not always werewolves. They are some kind of transformation from a human into that. Now, it didn't seem really big, but there you have it. The other story, when I was talking about the Bigfoot, was pondering whether or not they scavenge. And I think all of these things scavenge. They've all been witnessed scavenging things along roadways. That seems to be maybe one of the big draws that gets them to roadways. And it also becomes the stage for a lot of road crossings in front of cars, which still baffle my mind, because if these creatures are really working at avoiding people and not being around people, why don't they just stay hidden until the car goes by? It would just be so easy for them. And again, if you've been out in the country, you can hear a car coming long before you can see it. You can hear that stuff miles away sometimes. I always tell the story of when I was young on the bluff where I was eventually growled at, but I used to make it a game to sit on the side of the hill and just dodge cars. Just listen when they come, I'd hide, and when they go, I'd pop out again. I just loved playing ninja up in the hills. I mean, that was kind of my thing, but, you know, it's not hard to avoid cars. It's incredibly easy, and especially with things that I only can presume they have senses that are so much more attuned than ours. So, I don't know, but strange. They do pop right out and walk right across roadways like, hey, sorry, just passing through. You know, and again, could be a count and coup thing, could be any number of things, who knows, but very strange behavior. All right, what do we got next? Oh, this one's an interesting one. This one popped up on Phantoms and Monsters, and I was like, oh, I've had this one open for a couple weeks too, at least. I guess from, June 25th, yeah. So that's when it was new, and I was like, what? Now this is one, these kind of sightings are exceptionally rare. They don't come up often at all. What are they? I don't know. Bigfoot yells, get off my path that you paved now. That's about right. Audio, have a good night, everybody. Hey, Audio. Thanks for coming in, man. It's good to see you. Hope things are wonderful in your world. Hope that cat's good. Gotta give us an update on that. I'm under pressure to come up with these gems. Of course, Rachel, we rely on you. It's good to see you. Good to see you too, Audio. Thanks for popping in. All right, so this one is, again, these are incredibly rare sightings, but they do come up. I don't know. I'll share with you my opinions on this in a minute, but I don't know how to make sense of this. It just seems so bizarre. But here we go from phantomsandmonsters.com, June 25th. Northern Ontario First Nations man describes account of a brontosaurus that exists at a nearby lake. Wow. That's incredible. Northern Ontario man, let's see what he says. Describes his 70-year-old account of a brontosaurus that was said to exist in a modern-day deep lake just outside of his home. Lon says, I received the following account. From Northern Ontario, here along Hudson Bay, there had been many sightings of strange creatures in this area where I live. The first one I was told about is the hairy man who lives between the town I live in and approximately 45 minutes north of it. Well, as a kid, I was told stories about him and how my friend's parents, relatives, encountered what is essentially a Bigfoot. I always took their stories with a grain of salt until last year when my friends and his family were driving north of here, and they saw it walk out of a ditch, cross the highway, and disappear into the woods. A family traveling in a minivan coming from the other direction also stopped and witnessed the event. The police were called, and when they showed up, all they found were two excited families, a print or two of huge feet, and a strong smell of what they described as rotting garbage. The second story I heard about was a dinosaur sighting that was witnessed by quite a few people at a lake also north of here. Well, this sighting took place approximately 70 years ago at a now long abandoned town at the edge of the lake. One elder I heard the story from told me they watched what looked like a brontosaurus walking through the forest with the head of it clearing the top of the forest canopy. Well, they watched it slowly walk into the lake and then swim out to where the lake got huge and disappeared around the bend. To help you picture what the area looks like, picture an upside-down snowman with the town located at the top of the head, and then the larger part of the lake, the midsection of the body. The dinosaur, they said, went from left to right before disappearing out of sight. Of course, most people don't believe that a dinosaur still exists, but for whatever reason, I think that it is true. Now, that's a tough one. Here's the thing that's, I think it's kind of the brontosaurus in the room, if you will. When dinosaurs did exist, when we had this incredible megafauna roaming the Earth's atmosphere was a lot more potent with oxygen than it is now. I don't know if that's part of maybe those climatic changes of our atmosphere through the development of our planet or whatever caused maybe part of the extinction events that they just didn't have enough air. 31% oxygen. Is that what it was, Annie? Thank you. But if there were some sort of megafauna like that, could it exist? Could there possibly be enough of an evolution biologically that's, there's some remnant pieces that still exist? And maybe that's possible, but it almost seems to me more likely, and maybe it sounds terrible, but because it doesn't seem more likely when you think of the physics of it, but perhaps that's time slip of some sort that they were witnessing and maybe regularly saw glimpses of a bygone era. And for some reason, perhaps some ley lines, some dimensional convergences or time slips of some sort, they were able to observe this interacting with the lake as it looked for the most part now. And I don't know how much lakes have changed. You'd think through the ice ages and stuff, it would have, probably changed the layout pretty severely. But What if and I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing ideas at it because it's hard to imagine that in northern Ontario there was a brontosaurus that's head reached above the tree canopy. That just seems like, sorry, this is an intentional pun, but that seems like a tall order. Sorry, couldn't resist. But you know what I mean? It's like, wow, pterodactyl or a pterodactyl? What's a pterodactyl? Was sighted in Orange County. Wow. That's pretty real. I believe it. I believe there's lots going on in Orange County. I'm just saying. But interestingly enough, so there you have it. I don't know what you guys think of that. Could there be a brontosaurus? Now that in Africa they have a cryptid known as the Mekele Mbembe, which I'm probably brutalizing that pronunciation, but basically the name translates to diverter of streams. Like it changes the flow of the stream. It's so big. And there's some form of brontosaurus looking thing there. I don't know. Again, how could I possibly know? Lots of cougars in Orange County. Rawr. Just sorry. Everybody loves a good cougar. I'm just saying. Just kidding. A velociraptor ate a hunter in Papua New Guinea. Yeah, that could be. I know that's there's reports of such things in Papua New Guinea. Sure. I'm familiar with a couple or a few, just in memory, if memory serves me correctly. But again, the stories are very few and far between for these dinosaur sightings. There were T-Rexes apparently being sighted in Texas. What is the likelihood of that? But could they be time slips, some form of time slip, some dimensional iris that opens up and you can watch it and then it just kind of disappears or for whatever reason is no longer in your purview. But I don't know. Careful out there. There's a T-Rex type dinosaur that is in West Canada. I can't recall its name. Yeah, Grandizer. I came across one of those stories too, a long time ago of a T-Rex up in Canada. Now the other thing you think about is if there were brontosaurus size or dinosaur-like creatures, could they survive in Canada? Could they handle the cold winters? And maybe they could. Maybe they could generate enough heat or whatever. I don't know. I mean, you just don't know. God, for all we know, maybe they hibernate. It's just anybody's guess. I couldn't begin an Albertosaurus. Okay, Annie. Very cool. And Chucky, both of you answered. Very cool. They can't run that fast in heels. You'll do well. Those tigers or those cougars? Well, I don't know. Would they have to, though? That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's move along before this goes further into the gutter. There we have it. So it's an interesting story, though, because we don't see those much, but they still pop up from time to time. Now, this is a 70-year-old account, but 70 years is just literally a blink of an eye in the terms of our timelines. So that's not long ago for there to be allegedly a brontosaurus. Now, you'd think that somebody would have, possibly some form of evidence, maybe the body of one that didn't continue living. I don't know. It's anybody's guess, but there you have it. It's a brontosaurus claim coming out of Canada, and I just had to share it with you because they're rare, but when they come up, they are interesting. Is it a real event? Well, I mean, could be. Could be. Far be it for me to understand the nature of the universe and all that could be playing out in front of us. Obviously, we deal with a lot of impossibilities here, quote unquote impossibilities. But interestingly enough, the other, but not in Africa, is roe, a bizarre dinosaur that rears up, has rows of dorsal fins, spiked tail of western New Guinea. Huh. Okay. I want to rock and roll all night. Well, good for you, Renee, going all kiss on us, right? You need a Kiss solo. Amen. Shout it out loud. You know what I'm saying? Both those songs are on my Spotify playlists in different spots. All right, here's another one. We got another one. This one is, wait, I want to get to another one. What time do we have? Yeah, I want to get to this other one first because you don't see these very much either. This one sounds really interesting. I don't know if they're called melon heads or what, but I was wondering if that was what this was. Can't remember. There's some kind of basically like a cryptid, but it's like a child size, and they like to hang out with kids. And then I don't know for what end, if they're maybe just want to be kept company or if there's something malicious with it. But people see these misshapen kids sometimes in the woods, and sometimes kids play with them, and they have moments, I guess. I think, what is it, melon heads or something like that? I can't remember the name. Another rarity, but this one comes from Wisconsin. Now, it could be some version of proto-pig to me, really. But I got to get the new water. So let's get to this one. This one is also from phantomsandmonsters.com. Small, pale-faced, and deformed human-like being seen by hunters in northwest Wisconsin. So it sounds like a proto-pygmy, but let's see what it says. A father and son are hunting on their cousin's land in Burnett County, Wisconsin, when they hear something near them. Well, they both observe a small, pale face peeking from behind a tree. God, that's so creepy. It's so creepy because you don't know what that is. What if it's a little rake, little baby rake, or ghoul or whatever? My cousin owns land in Burnett County, Wisconsin, and there's lots of hills and lots of deer. It's a tradition for all of us to hunt on his property. My dad, cousin, and all their friends pitched in to build a hunting shack on the property and put up tree stands. We hunt on a schedule, so none of us hunt in the same area at the same time, both for our own safety and in hopes of getting a deer. Well, my dad and I took an ATV and headed up the hillside. The sun wasn't quite up yet, and we wanted to get set for sunrise. We marked which hill we were going up on the schedule inside of the hunting shack. Nobody else was there yet, but we marked it anyway in case my cousin and his daughter showed up. We waited until about 9 a.m. and didn't see a thing. Not even as much as a squirrel. We decided to go get some coffee to warm up and then head back out. I followed my dad down the path back to the ATV, and we'd stop every so often to listen for deer. The only noises I heard were my footsteps and my dad. About halfway to the ATV, I heard something else. It only happened when my dad and I walked. When my dad and I walk during deer hunting, I mimic his footsteps so we make less noise. I step at the same time as him. However, something behind me was making noise. It was like something was mimicking my footsteps. Well, I spun around and peered into the trees, and the sun still wasn't over the top of the hill yet, so we were in quite a bit of shade. I didn't see anything, so I continued to follow my dad down the hill. But I heard it again. And this time I turned around when we were still walking, and I saw something duck behind a tree. A pale face poked out from about 30 yards up the hill and then hid behind the tree again. It poked out again, and this time stayed staring down at us. I stopped and hit my dad's shoulder, and he turned and saw it too. "Get to the four-wheeler," he whispered, and I didn't hesitate. I stared it down as my dad started up the ATV, and as we departed, the face's shoulder came out from behind the tree, followed by the rest of its gnarly, malformed, small human-like body. My dad hit the throttle, and we got back to the hunting shack as soon as we could. Nobody else was there, so we got in the truck and left. I haven't been in those woods since. My dad was and got a deer this morning and acts like this never happened. I still think about it far too often. And that's the whole account. So this is basically a sighting, but got to give the dad credit. He's like, nope, I'm going to get my deer. I don't know. That's creepy. When was this? It doesn't really say. It doesn't say when this happened, but as he's writing, it says, my dad went up there and I've been in those woods since. My dad was and got a deer this morning. So I don't know if this was last year or when this was written, but I don't think June 28th is deer season. I think that's a fall thing, as I recall. But interesting. Maybe they're out of season. I don't know. Interesting enough. Anyway. All right, let's see what else I got here. Here's a good one. How much time do we have left? 47, but I did start a few minutes late. I just got to see how long this one is good. This is a skinwalker potentially. And this is from northern New Mexico desert. So let's check this one out from phantomsandmonsters.com, ladies and gentlemen. Possible skinwalker encountered in northern New Mexico desert. Eesh. I don't know. Skinwalkers are a strange thing. I don't know if they're always evil or not, but I know that the general consensus with the tribal populations is that, yeah, they are not good. You don't want them hanging around. And I suppose I will always defer to their wisdom because I have no idea. But far be it for me to go, no, they're fine. Just get to know them. Throw them a donut. They're good. You just don't mess with things like that. All right, 3 friends were driving at night in the northern New Mexico desert when they approached a man standing alone. The man quickly drops to all fours and quickly runs towards them. Oof, that's not a good sign. The following account was forwarded to me. This happened to my son when he was 17 years old. We lived in northern New Mexico at the time. My son, Cade, was riding along with his friends Dave and James, and they were in Dave's truck, and Drew was driving. It was night, and they were headed to Dave's house. Drew lived out in the country, so the road they were on was isolated and surrounded by desert. In fact, that whole area is flat and mostly dirt. As they're driving along, they see a man standing in the middle of the road. Well, Dave slows down, and they all expect the guy to move off to the side. The guy doesn't move. He just stands there. Well, Dave slows to a stop, and the guy is standing just outside the light from the headlights. He's wearing jeans and some sort of long-sleeve shirt. They couldn't make out the features of the guy's face, but they could tell he was facing them. Nobody moves for a few seconds. The kids start to talk about going around him, but they aren't sure if they should pass by this guy or just turn around and go another way. Suddenly, the guy drops down to all fours and starts running towards the truck. All the kids start screaming. Dave slams the truck into reverse and floors it. And now they're going backwards on this dark country road, and this guy is chasing them on all fours, and he's keeping up with the truck. Well, Dave goes faster, and finally the guy drops out of sight. Dave turned the truck around, and they all came back to our house. I was in the living room when they came running in, slammed and locked the door, and went tearing up the stairs to Cade's room. I went up to see what was going on, and this is when they told me the story. I've never seen them so pale and frightened. They were completely freaked out. This happened on a Friday night around 8 p.m., and these were kids who normally would rather be anywhere except home on a weekend. Well, that weekend they stayed at our place the whole time. They didn't go out at all and only left because they had school on Monday. It took a month before they wanted to go out again at night. And they would go anywhere during the day, but at night, they usually gathered at our house. Well, after a little research, they all agreed that it was a skinwalker. Even to this day, if I bring up that night, Cade and his friends will get really quiet and look scared. It took a long time for them to get past it, and they still think that talking about it will make it come back. And Lon has a note here that says, do you believe that it was a skinwalker or another type of shapeshifter? The area is either in or near the Navajo reservation, and I wasn't given a specific location. That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know what the difference between a skinwalker and a shapeshifter is, other than one is very malicious and wants to do harm, allegedly, and potentially a shapeshifter could be a shaman. And there are plenty of stories of shamans shifting into another form. And so I don't know. I mean, how do you know? I guess it would the proof would be in the pudding, but the fact that it charged at them and was clearly trying to get them out of there, maybe there's another reason. Maybe it was acting in a benevolent way, but it's hard to understand when something's charging at you and that's all you see. But maybe it's what you didn't see. Maybe there was something else it was pushing these kids away from to keep them safe. And I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But, when you only have a fragment of a situation, can you really say, well, it was after us, it wanted to kill us? Well, no. I don't know that it did, but it wanted you away from that area for some reason. Maybe there's something else going on that would have been much worse for these kids. And so maybe it was more of a benevolent act, but it's hard to understand. It's hard to know. So, and I don't pretend to know, but I just like to postulate ideas about this strangeness because we just don't know. So Skinwalker tonight, we did a small, misshapen, pale-faced humanoid. We've done werewolves. We've done Bigfoots. We had a pretty robust journey, I think. I think it's gone pretty darn well. That's a scary guardian. Yeah, it might be. It might be. And I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think that oftentimes we have a knee-jerk reaction to things that we aren't familiar with, and we go, well, it was trying to hurt us. Well, are you sure? Could you be wrong? Maybe it was the divine intervention keeping you from harm. Maybe something would have happened on that road. Maybe they would have rolled their car and all died if they'd continued. Who knows? I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just throwing out ideas, but I do think that a lot of this stuff happens. And since it's all unfamiliar, we just jump to a conclusion. Well, it was evil. It was trying to hurt us. It was trying to, it's a demonic thing because it scared me. And I don't think that that's a really fair litmus test for these things, that just because you feel scared doesn't mean it was evil. It's just that we're presented with things we're not prepared to understand. And so you jump to the conclusion, well, it was trying to hurt me. It had power over me. And I felt afraid. But it could be some of the most benevolent acts of all, keeping these kids from, being injured or killed. Could be a guardian angel for all we know. I mean, honestly, we don't understand. So always be careful to, like gargoyles, look terrible, but they are protectors. Yeah, exactly. Happy Freedom Day, my American amigos, Chucky says. Well, happy Freedom Day to you. You're in Canada, but you're just kind of right in Canada. So you're close. You're close enough. You can celebrate, Chucky. You have our permission. I hope the aliens come for Independence Day tomorrow. Wouldn't that be something? I mean, God, who knows? I don't know. You always got to wonder, is there going to come a day that's going to be just like the launch of that Independence Day movie, where it's like these freaking motherships just kind of come through these banks of clouds and, oh, they're here. Or like District 9, it's just going to be this huge ship just suddenly there, or other ships or whatever. God only knows, but you don't know. I mean, I've thought about it a bunch, but I have no idea how these things are going to reveal themselves ultimately, or if they're going to. Maybe it's not ever going to be a global event like that, but could you imagine if it was? I'll bet you Ronald Reagan was right, that all of a sudden a lot of petty differences would be put aside and we would focus on, oops, what now? You gotta believe there's some truth to that. Absolutely. Happy Keep All Your Fingers Day. Yeah, everybody be careful with those fireworks for sure. I can't tell you, as a kid, I had a neighbor down where I grew up, right on the river there. And he was from Iowa. He was an old farmer guy. And he'd bring up buckets of firecrackers and bottle rockets and stuff. And God, I got to tell you, I can't tell you how many times those freaking blackjack firecrackers, like it had just a freaking lightning fuse. Like, pow! It's like you can't do anything. You touch the punk to it, and it's like, pow! And all of a sudden your hand is just this vibrating, throbbing mass of pain. It's like somebody hit your whole hand with a hammer. It's like, oh, great, I've had so much fun. But it didn't stop us. When the pain subsides, you go grab some more. We blew up all kinds of stuff. Anything we could try. Launching bottles and pop cans up in the air and trying to blow them out with the firecrackers. Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm Gen X, obviously, and there is truth to that we did all kinds of stupid back in our days. Things that, you couldn't even imagine now. I had those same firecrackers. Yeah, those things were freaking nasty. Most of them were fine, like psst, pop, it was like, we'd have firecracker wars and stuff, but every once in a while you get one of those, the wick was just, or the fuse was just, had come unraveled. So it was like just a piece of paper with powder on it. It's just like, pow, just right in your hand. It's like, oh my God. All the memories, all the glorious memories of youth. I set up bail bonds when I was 10 years old. What? Wow. That's crazy, Renee. You're a busy kid. Paranormal Portal is the correct use to fireworks. I can't hear. It was too loud. I'm here to tell you, man. We even got a hold of like M80s, and those things are freaking beasts, like a quarter stick of dynamite or whatever they were. God, we blew up all kinds of stuff with those things. And how we didn't lose fingers, I don't know. But those had like the cannon fuse in them, so they were usually pretty accurate. Like you lit it and you ran, because they would actually produce shrapnel. Whenever you blow up a pop can, it's like there's like pieces of pop can for like 50 yards. They were freaking nasty. And I can't tell you all the different fireworks that we got a hold of from this guy and from my uncle used to. He had like M70s and M80s and silver salutes, they were called, these silver looking smaller M80 ones. Those were beasts too. Yeah, we had wars with things like that, if you can believe that. But yep, could be going for a few days now. A lot tonight. Tomorrow it will be like bombs. I think M8 and M99s are what they have here. Sounds like bombs. God, I don't know what an M99 looks like, but I'm here to tell you, those things are freaking dangerous. All of them are, really, but we were kids. We were stupid. We'd have like Roman candle wars, and we'd each have one and run around pointing them at each other. These fiery balls flying at each other. It's like, oh yeah, good fun. We did all kinds of stupid, BB gun wars and bottle rocket wars, and I even did dart wars with a friend of mine with little needle darts, like a dartboard darts. We'd lob those at each other, and we're pulling them out of our arms and knees and stuff. It's because they go in and they go right to the hilt. I was always surprised that they went in so easy, but they came out. You had to like pull them pretty decently, and the skin's coming out like, yeah, all kinds of stupid. I don't know how but I am the kid also that did get shot in the eye with a BB, and am partially blind in my right eye now since I was 12. So I am that kid. It's a true story. Le boom, as the French say. Where's the boom? Where's the earth-shattering kaboom? Yeah, that's what Marvin the Martian said. No cherry bombs. Cherry bombs too, for sure. Yeah, cherry bombs. Cherry bombs are good, but M80s were way good. Those things were nasty. We'd put like 5-gallon buckets down and then light a M80 under it, and then poof, that thing would fly like 50 feet in the air. It's like, oh my God. Crazy. Smoke bombs sucked. Yeah, I still liked them. They were fun. I always, had like a Batman idea, try to make like a whole bunch of smoke bombs and light them and to make a smoke curtain. It never worked out real well, but we tried. But anyway, I'm not trying to give anybody any bad ideas. Be careful out there. Take care of each other, obviously. Remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Happy July 4th to all of you. I know it's not all a holiday for all of you, but just know that, our love and admiration goes out to all of you. And thank you for being a part of our journey here on the portal. Thank you for the likes. If you like the show, please hit the likes. If you didn't like the show, just never mind, or hit the don't like twice, whatever you want. Do it twice because it just means more. It means you liked it really. You didn't like it at all. And I'll be back Friday. I think Sheldon will be here with me, so we'll dig into it all again. I hope you guys will be here. Thank you so much. Happy 4th of July to all of you, and be safe, and I'll see you Friday. That's, I think, all I got. So until then, until Friday, be good. See you guys. Good night. That's all I got for you.